Greetings, our Frederick Riddle, and here I am once again with Christian News and Views. This is episode 17. And if you want to know more about what this series of podcasts is all about, check out episode 1 where I explain the whole thing. And today we're going to be taking a look at an article that I actually was in yesterday's newspaper, and it's, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see, there we go. Newspapers are under assault and vanishing to our detriment. It's from the Chicago Tribune. Very interesting article that the author pretty well describes what's going on, but she doesn't really come to a proper understanding of it. And that's understandable. When you're the sick person, it's hard to diagnose yourself. But let's take a look at some of the things that she did. I'm just going to highlight some of the comments, and then I'm going to offer you my opinion on what the problem is with our nation's news media. She begins this way. No matter who won on election day, the nation's newsies were playing a losing hand. My sisters and brothers of the Fourth Estate have taken a brutal beating in these treacherous political times. News organizations and journalists are being blamed for everything from inspiring assassination attempts to manufacturing fake news to swinging in November 5th presidential election. We are despised, mistrusted, and ridiculed at every turn. As a result, our legacy media are crumbling. Here's another excerpt. She's talking about some research that was done, and here, pick it up here. They found that 127 newspapers went under in the last year, more than 2 per week. The nation has lost 3,200 newspapers, more than 1/3 since 2005. That trend has inspired more news deserts. That is, communities that suffer from having no local source for news. Here's some more of that. And more than 7,000 newspaper jobs disappeared between 2022 and 2023. Compared with a few hundred the year before. Broadcast media are also losing audiences to massive cable cutting and the streaming mania. Meanwhile, traditional staples such as editorial board endorsements, once sought by candidates and valued by news consumers, are going by the wayside. And here's what I'm going to conclude with as far as what she says. There has been a long slide of credibility in my profession. The trust has been broken. Now, if she would have stayed right there and really done a self-examination, she would have been much better off. Yes, the news media has lost ground in the last election. But it wasn't just the last election. This has been going on for years. It finally exploded. But it has been building decade after decade after decade. The papers of today are not the same as the papers of when I was a young man. I'm 81 now. You reverse those numbers to 18. When I was 18, what passes as journalism today would not have made the grade back then. Why? Well, for one thing, poor and biased reporting. Of course they're despised and mistrusted. Who wouldn't despise that kind of reporting? They brought it on themselves. When you mix your opinion in the news report that you are You are literally creating the illusion that your opinion is in truth fact, though it is not. It's an opinion. This is not what people need. They need truth, which you have not provided. Now let me just go back to my own, I said when I was 18. So let's go back to that a little bit. When I was a young man of 18, I could pick up a newspaper like this, and I would turn not to, if I wanted to have somebody's opinion, I would turn to the editorial page, or I would turn to the opinion page. Different newspapers called it different things. And so they had their own pages. They had their own part in the paper. And you as a consumer, as a reader, those of us that were the readers, we could go, if we wanted to know the opinion of the news, we would go there. If we wanted just the news, we would go, that's usually on section A, usually on the very front pages, and then where we started, and then it'll carry on in a further page in A or maybe B. But the thing was, they were kept completely separate. And so that right there, if we were to stop right there, right there is a reason for that sliding credibility. There's a reason why the newspapers are mistrusted, and why the trust has been broken. We didn't break it. The newspapers, the reporters broke it. And I think, that very possible that this got changed in colleges. People going wanting to become a reporter would go, and a new new idea of reporting came on the scene, and it was probably not addressed as new. It was just, this is how you report. This is a improvement. They might have used words like improvement or stuff like that. I don't know of any such course, but somewhere along the line, they got off base. And instead of reporting the facts that we need to hear, they come up with this. And I've actually heard news media on TV say this. We've got to teach people what the truth is. We've got to show them and direct them. Basically what they're saying is the people need us to understand what they're hearing. They can't understand it on their own. They need us. That's arrogant, folks. There's no other word to put on it. It's arrogant. Now, I'm going to do something here. I want to do something that just go through a few things here. I forgot to do this. I'll do it now on my own. Separate some things here. Okay. So, reporters back in the day when I was 18, again, what they would do is they would go and then get a story, the concept for a story, and then they would dig, they would research. They might go to the library and look stuff up. They might go interview different people and so forth, and pull in information here and pull in information here, and gradually they build a factual thing here. Now, excuse me, I don't want to do this, but I don't have any choice. So anyhow, they did their work. They put in the time, the effort. I don't see that today. No, what we do now is according to this institute, according to that institute. Oh, our fact checker. Oh, our fact checker. They say that this is not true or this is true or something. No, that's not what we need. We don't get the newspaper to find out what fact checkers say. Fact checkers need to be fact checked themselves. No, we expect you as a reporter to literally do the work you're being paid to do, and that's to research, dig, get the truth, and then report it with no comments, no opinions, just the research. Or one of my favorite shows back in the day called Dragnet. Sergeant Friday would say, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. That's what we want. We want the facts. not the opinions. But today, fact checkers play a very deep role in our news media. And that's unfortunate because though they will deny it until they are blue in the face, they go where the money goes. So in some cases, you'll see them take a sort of a middle road. I mean, so they're a little bit closer to the truth than others. But basically what's going on is whoever gives the most gets the best coverage. And usually that's the liberal side. And so you go to some of these famous, well-known fact checkers, and they'll give you their facts. Well, you can stop there and accept it and say, oh, okay, they said this, and this, so that must be true. Wouldn't it be better to find out for yourself? You're a reporter, to dig. Maybe go in and find out why the fact checker says that. Are there any other facts that maybe the fact checker overlooked or ignored? But today, reporters are basically lazy, intellectually lazy in any case. And they let the fact checkers say this is right, this is wrong, and then they throw it out there. And I've seen it in some of the presidential debates. The fact checkers would throw stuff out there that even I, one of the deplorables, if you will, garbage, if you will, I do the facts, and I look things up. I read the papers, I watch the news, and I try to dig a little bit further. If I suspect something, I can look it up there and go here and there and just dig out the facts. Well, that's what they're paid to do, and they're not doing it. They're trusting the fact checkers, which is a very bad idea from start to finish. You see, there is no such thing, no such animal as a non-biased person, let alone fact checker. We all have biases. We bring them. They're based on our education, based on our life experiences, and they can be based on who's asking and how much they're paying me to give my opinion. If there's somebody who's pays me to give their opinion on something, and I know they believe such and such is true, even if I try to block that out of my mind and say no, I'm going to give them the facts and nothing but the fact, it's still there, and it's going to influence me to some degree, subconsciously maybe, but it's going to influence me, not by my attention. But I'm a human being, and human beings are influenced by other people and by circumstances and by money, by rewards, but different things, and we don't even realize we're being influenced by them. They all go into the mix, so to speak, and influence how we receive things and how we perceive things. So the traditional news media is going the way of the dinosaur, because it got fat, it got arrogant, and it no longer has relevance to our lives. And I agree with the headline, it's to our detriment. This country was founded on the basis that it would have a free and relevant news media. Unfortunately, the relevant part has gone bad. It's free of government regulation, is which was meant there, and it's free of government regulation. And I think government regulation would not be the answer today. It just becomes a mouthpiece of the government. No, what is needed is for them to do some house cleaning. But the question comes up: is it too late? Is it too late for them to do the house cleaning that's necessary? Is it too late to correct all these bad things we're seeing? I mean, these are deeply ingrained. Many of these are this is the only kind of reporting they've ever known. They came up, they may have read it, and then they got into the college and so forth, and this is what how they're taught to do it, to incorporate your opinion right in the article. They don't see anything wrong with that. those of us with longer memories, longer history, can remember a time when that was not the case. And we were treated with respect. And they thought, well, if we give them the facts, they are intelligent enough to understand it and to make the right decisions. Somewhere along the road, they got the opinion that we are not intelligent enough to do that. I can't tell you how many times I have watched a speech, a televised speech, and then after that televised speech, the news media, selected stars of the media, so to speak, would then get on, and what they would do was tell us what we heard. My wife and I, what we used to do was we watched the speech, and then when the TV, when the news media came on to do their follow-up, we would then switch stations or turn the TV off. Now I bet you we weren't the only ones that did that. Why? Because I knew what I heard. I didn't have to have them explain it to me. I didn't have to have them, the fact check on the fact checkers, which again, like I said before, they need to be fact checked. You ought to try it someday. I have. They are not always correct. And sometimes their answers are correct to a degree. They look like they're right. They maybe even pass the smell test. But when you look deeper, you find out that, well, they kind of shaded it here. Well, maybe they... one of the practices that they have in the news media now is they'll take a quote from here and a quote from over here, two different subjects, same person talking, maybe even in the same platform, the same setting and everything, but good possibility, a totally different subject. And they'll take this quote and this quote, bring them together and say, this is what he said, or she said. And no, that is not what they said. They said this over here, and they said this over here. And they're two separate subjects, and you can't do that. That's, first of all, it's arrogant, because you're thinking, well, they're stupid enough to, if they're stupid enough to believe that, then they're stupid enough to well, we can put this together and they'll never figure it out on their own. We can see that. And more people have the opportunity to do their own fact checking. And I think that happened the media likes to blame it on podcasts. Well, before the podcast came along, people started doing their own digging. They Google this, Google that, and dig and find out what the truth was. And they're still doing it today. And the fact that you had such a mandate now for the new president, that is something that it should not be as a shock. The news media itself paved the ground for that. A good example of that is the polling that was taking place. Now, I followed some different polls, and I followed a certain person who interpreted those polls. But did I just go with what he had to say? No. I looked around, and I could see that what he was saying was factual. It was truth. And I had reason. He had a history with me and everything. And I knew that what he was saying was basically true. Do I always agree with him? No, I don't. Do I always accept what he says? No, I don't. But it gives me a starting point that I can look. And there's this, and I realized in those polls, those polls were based not even on registered voters. They might include them, but they were also based on immigrants coming into the country, how they might vote. They're not even supposed to vote. They voted, based on people who might be registered but don't have a history of voting. All sorts of different things were at play. And so they were giving out false information and saying, here's what the polls are saying. When in fact, Trump was actually leading most of the time, and there towards the end was actually increasing. The signs were there, but they ignored them and they reported them differently to us. So there's a high degree of arrogance. And when you're arrogant like that, don't be surprised when people think that you're no longer relevant. We can't trust you. You have failed the smell test. You have failed the trust test. So I asked the question earlier, is it too late? I don't know. But if they want to be relevant again, they need to become trustworthy again. And so that is what I am, where I'm at right now. As far as newspapers, yeah, I like to get the news. You can see I get one. The newspapers, they have a role to play. But if they disappear and no longer have that role at all, they will have no one to blame but themselves. That's my opinion. You have a great day, and I will see you in the next episode.